Now, following the assassination of Iranian general Qasem Soleimani in Iraq, Trump believed that he was doing the world a favor by getting rid of what is essentially an evil terrorist, right? So now Soleimani did some terrible things, and he's got a very look. He's a mixed person, right? Yes, he's done a lot of terrible things. He was especially brutal in the fight against ISIS. That's what gained him notoriety in Iran. But at the same time, he did brutal attacks against the Americans in Iraq as well as the international coalition in Iraq. And so, yes, he's done terrible things, but he also did go to fight ISIS, right? So now, not only that, but Soleimani, throughout some of his proxies, have look, they're credited with the deaths of coalition troops in Iraq, and so now Trump, after killing him, after ordering the strike, is now wondering, wait, well, I killed this guy who killed our troops and international troops. Why am I not getting praise from the international community? Well, there's a few reasons, right? So now, for one, uh, basically, this was an unnecessary escalation, right? So the world looked at this and they're like, what are you doing? You're going to escalate a war with Iran. You just assassinated their number two guy inside of Iraq. Well, that's not a smart thing, right? And this is actually the opposite of what the international community actually wants. They do want Iran to be compliant with any sort of nuclear arrangement or the previous nuclear deal, and American provocation and aggression is not going to lead to that goal. It's not going to lead to that outcome, right? And so you're a little upset about that. And so following that strike, our allies basically said the same thing. Please do not escalate the situation. So that's the message from the international community, right? So now Boris Johnson, who's a prime minister of the UK, he was the closest to Donald Trump's position in saying, "Well, look, I don't lament Soleimani's death." Well, look, not a lot of us are. A lot of people in Iran are, because to them he was a national hero. But at the same time, even if we're not lamenting, what we are, and this is the problem with the assassination. Obviously, you don't assassinate people that are higher up in the government and expect there to be peace. But it's that escalation. It's that escalation. That is the problem. We do not want war with this country. We do not want another war in the Middle East because it's disastrous, right? So now the rest of the international community was a little bit more harsh. France's minister for Europe said this, quote, "We have woken up to a more dangerous world," but also adding, "Hey, we're not going to take sides." Okay, we're not going to take sides. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe pulled no punches, and he said that he was, quote, "humiliated by the strike." So, look, again, they're being incredibly honest and incredibly harsh towards Donald Trump. And I think that's fair. That's a fair reaction. And they're all saying, basically, I don't want to get involved in this. It's not our problem, not our fight. Even the Israeli government, who had been pushing us to attack Soleimani, to assassinate him for years. Oh, attack Iran, attack Soleimani, take him out, take him out. Benjamin Netanyahu goes, not my problem. That's your problem, America. You did that. So, yeah, there you go. Now, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, following this, has been complaining, quote, that the Europeans haven't been as helpful as I wish they could be. The Brits, the French, the Germans all need to understand that what we did, what the Americans did, saved lives in Europe as well. Oh, did they? Really? Because Soleimani was not targeting people in Europe. He was targeting, through proxies, right, American forces in Iraq and Syria, and mostly attacking ISIS. Now, we're all supposed to be fighting ISIS together. So, I don't get it, right? It's wrong. So, nobody in Europe was in danger of being hit by Soleimani's forces, right? And nobody in America was in danger of being hit by Soleimani and his forces, by Iran. And so, what is he talking about? He's lying. He's lying. But look, here's the thing too: the fact that he's going after, through proxies, our forces means one thing. Maybe we shouldn't be there because we're not exactly welcome. I'm just saying we wouldn't be targeted if we weren't there. Okay, so that's an important point. And look, Iraq literally voted to kick us out of the country. We should take a hint. We should take a hint. And by the way, Iraq is supposed to be our ally. We gave them democracy, and they used that democracy to say, "Okay, we're tired of your bullshit. Get out." But here's the thing, right? The response from the international community is the way that it is, I believe, because they think Trump is a rogue actor. Now, I actually would agree with that he's a rogue actor, that he's not a rational actor. Why? It's because he spent his entire term basically trying to alienate our allies, our traditional allies, while cozying up with dictators. Now, he went after our allies, for example, in the Ukraine so-called transcript, right? The Europeans, they're not helping you as much as we are. They need to do more. They didn't do their fair share. And he constantly says that the European allies don't actually do enough for NATO. Now, look, he might have a small point, but at the same time, you're going after our allies. You're trying to alienate our allies. And even the fact that the Soleimani operation itself, Trump still put a finger in his eye, or a finger in the eye of our allies. So now Congress, for example, Congress learned right after the strike, as did the British. The UK found out about it from the news. Now, this is an issue, again, that could have affected their troops in the area. And so we didn't tell them. We didn't tell our allies. Trump didn't even tell Congress. And so that's a problem, right? It shows you how little respect he has for our allies as well as members of Congress. Now, there is one thing that led to this. One major factor that led to this entire disaster, and that was the abandonment of the nuclear deal. Now, the rest of the world was part of that deal. You had China, Russia, France, the UK, Germany. All these countries signed this deal. So it wasn't just us. It was an international deal that the world came together and we said, okay, this is a good enough deal. We have, basically dismantled their nuclear energy program. Okay, so they're not going to have that. They're not going to be able to get a weapon. And we have, verification. And so we believe that this is the strongest deal that we can get. Donald Trump ripped it up. He said, I'm not interested in that. I want to negotiate a better one. Well, there is no negotiating a better one because that is the best that you can get. And it upsets him so much that it was Obama that got this, that made this deal. He can't stand the fact that Obama actually was a way better negotiator, as well as somebody who was way smarter than him. And I know some of you might be like, what are you talking about Obama being a good negotiator? Well, look at all the, times he negotiated against progressive priorities. Well, there's a reason for that, because Obama's not progressive. Obama's never been a progressive. And so, of course, he's going to, negotiate a crappier deal for progressives because he's not actually one of us. So what I'm saying is that when he actually wants to negotiate something, he will do a great job at it because that's actually what he wants. And so I just wanted to make that distinction because I know every time I say something positive about Obama or Elizabeth Warren, I get this flood of comments that are like, no, Obama terrible. But here's the thing. He's terrible from a progressive point of view. But on some of the things that he did, when he actually wants to do it, does a fantastic job. So let's just say that, okay? And I just wanted to clarify that. But again, this was an international deal. It was a great deal, one that Iran had actually followed for about a year after the United States had pulled out. And we put punishing sanctions back on Iran, and also getting back to why our allies aren't exactly thrilled with us. We threatened our allies. Hey, if you do any sort of deals with Iran, we're going to sanction you. We're coming after you. And so that froze Iran out. And now, at this point, they're like, well, why should we even honor the deal? You didn't. And we're to the point of being desperate, so we're just going to start up our nuclear program again. So congratulations, Donald Trump. You actually ruined what was a really good deal. So it shouldn't be a surprise to the president. I'm not sure why it is, but for some reason he's like, I don't get it. I don't understand why they don't like me. They're a bunch of never Trumpers. But look, after doing all that, yes, our allies weren't exactly thrilled to see us go half-cocked into Iran and do high-level assassinations. Again, who would have known? It's just a great example of how little Donald Trump thinks of, and just thinks, right? And thinks about the consequences of his actions. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.